He twists and stops up. He put it back toward the line, coming right down Main Street. Samberg a shot, he scores! Dylan Samberg took the pass on a little curl up from Scheifele. His 5th goal of the year. And Winnipeg will open up the scoring. It's 1-0 for the Jets with 11:59 remaining in this first period.
Well, you'll be hearing that or something along those lines for another 3 years, Jim Toph.
You'll be hearing that 40 times a year, did you just say?
Yeah.
40 goal scorer?
Well, if you add them up over the course of 3 years, 120. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program as we're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. The Winnipeg Jets this morning. Congratulations to Murat of The Athletic, who's on vacation. And he busted the story wide open at, I think it was just before 5:30 this morning. And Jay Richardson at Power 97 came in and he goes, "Did you see this?" And I said, No, I haven't.
I'm not even awake yet.
I think it was 5:35. And then as soon as I saw Murat had it, I knew that it was 100% legit. Murat is not going to come out that unless he has that thing verified 6 ways till Sunday. So congrats to Murat on breaking this early in the morning. And then try to get him on the show. He goes, "Sorry, guys, no thanks, on vacay." And I'm like, that's just the kind of guy you are, Mr. Murat. So
just so people know, on credit to Murat, I mean, you check to see if this meeting's been canceled or not, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how he figured it out, but
well, it's much like people are saying, why do people believe Friedman? Well, when you file arbitration, you have to have the asks in from each side 48 hours prior to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So Friedman looks that up and puts the information out. And then much like this, I would assume, I don't know, we'll have him on eventually, but I would assume you look today to see what arbitration meetings are set, and if one's been canceled, it usually means that there's a deal. And so I think that's how it works, I believe. But good for Murat on vacation to sort of file that up. He did post after a spot from, he's at the beach somewhere, say back to vacation.
Well, you know what? No rest for the wicked, right? Yeah. We're hoping to get Dylan Samberg on the show later this week at some point. There will be no conversations today. We got this from 680 CJOB's Kelly Moore earlier today. He's traveling back from Toronto.
So it did escalate to the point where both sides would have gone to Toronto and gotten ready.
So maybe that's where it came together face-to-face in Toronto. But the expectation is that we might hear from him tomorrow, maybe in the midday, but that's not concrete, though. But the Winnipeg Jets and defenseman Dylan Samberg have agreed to a 3-year contract with an average annual value of $5.75 million. The Jets still have about $4.8 million in cap space, Jim. The 26-year-old will become an unrestricted free agent when he turns 29. He set the single-season career high for himself with 6 goals and 20 points for Winnipeg last season, despite only playing 60 games. He was Winnipeg's 43rd overall pick back in 2017. What are your thoughts on this, Jim? My expectation was, and I believe that this would be dealt with before it got to arbitration today. But it was right down to the wire. I mean, both camps were in Toronto and getting ready to get this thing going here. So,
well, that's what I take from it. Look, as we kicked this around Monday when we heard the 2.5 offer and the $6 million ask, and a lot of people reached out to me yesterday and said, I have a hard time believing the Jets are only offering 2.5. Well, they weren't. They were coming in low if this escalated to the point where they sat down in arbitration that they usually split the difference, and the difference would be in the $4 million range. So I think this is a win for Dylan Samberg on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, me too.
I think he got just as close to his $6 million ask as he could get. I think he's got 3 years here, which is perfect under the current Winnipeg Jets window of winning a Stanley Cup. And then at 29 years old, which is when most players, 27 and 28, 29, become unrestricted free agency, he's going to unrestricted free agency.
Yeah.
I also think that when facing unrestricted free agency, he still will likely, who knows 3 years from now, but would still likely want to remain a Jet. But that price is going to cost you. Mm-hmm. I think Dylan Samberg's agent has played this exceptionally well. As I said all week, and including yesterday, he was going to get $6 million this year or next year. Now he got 5.75. So he missed his $6 million over the 3 years. by $75,000. In my opinion, this is a win for Dylan Samberg.
Yeah.
The win for the Jets is the 3 years. I mean, everybody's going to say, and I've already heard from some people, and feel free to change my mind, but all of you listening are going to say, I just wish it was longer.
Yeah.
But that's, again, the win for the Jets is they get him under 6, but not by much.
Yeah.
And they get him for 3 years, which is their Stanley Cup window here.
Yeah. My initial thought is after the deal came down was I was starting to thinking about 29. I started thinking about that age. And if he would have signed a long-term deal that was going to be the 6, the 7, the 8, it would have gone past his prime. And sort of that's where you want to be hitting the market, right? So if he would have signed a long-term contract, Jim, and this is why I think this is a total win for Dylan Samberg. And I think by it being a win for Dylan Samberg and keeping Dylan Samberg happy, I think that's a win for the Winnipeg Jets too, because I still believe that Dylan Samberg had more leverage in this. I think the Jets needed him a lot more than Dylan Samberg needed the Jets. I think that there was going to be a team that would have come to the table. But if he would have signed a long-term deal, Jim, that would have probably been his big contract for the rest of his career, right? It would have either went up until the end of his prime or past it, right? And that's the big cash in, right? So the one in 3 years' time, the plan is for Dylan Samberg and his agent is for that to be his cash in, right?
Why would you do that at 6? You basically got 6 and are now going to get 7 or 8 on your next one. So if he signs 6 years at $6 million, he's doing himself a disfavor.
Yeah. This is a win for Dylan Samberg.
It's a huge win for him. And I think, now don't get me wrong, it's a win for the Jets. They need him. He's a very, very good player.
Without a doubt.
And they need him in the lineup. So they get him for 3 years. I just think he played this for a guy who, like, this 3-year deal at 4.25 is what the norm would be if he's 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's your next deal. But he came out of college late. And then he had to go to the Moose. I just think that his agent did a phenomenal job here. And I think the win for the Jets is now, you know what this also, I know this is about Dylan Samberg, but there's a guy named Kyle Connor out there and he sees this. He wants to be here. Everybody, the insiders, Frank Cervelli and them were saying 11-12 for Kyle Connor.
David Pagnotta just put out that he doesn't see any concern with the Winnipeg Jets signing Kyle Connor. We're going to have him on next week.
So the Jets have done a phenomenal job of not getting a ton of pushback over the years. They 8.5 for your goalie, 8.5 for your number one center, 6 for your number one all-star Olympic-bound defenseman. They've done really well. 3.5 for your captain. They've done really well here. There are some players that know the cap's going up. And there are some players who know their value. And you're not always going to get the hometown discount. Not every player is going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a win for both. But it's a win for Dylan Samberg more so than anything.
I agree.
And I still believe in 3 years he's going to want to remain a Jet. But I'm going to want to remain a Jet at 7.5.
Yeah, I think.
And he'll be 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
29.
He'll be 29, yeah.
And we just looked up Slavin, who signed over a year ago, and he's making 6.3. Cap goes up, inflation 3 years from now, he's looking at 7.5.
I just think.
So why would you lock in for long term at 6?
I agree with you totally, Jim. And I think the Jets know who Dylan Samberg is and where he's going. And I think Dylan Samberg and his camp know who he is and where he's going to as well. Let's squeeze in some text messages.
We know who he is too. He's Dylan Samberg.
Dylan
Shooter.
Yeah,
Shooter McGavin of the Jets.
Great news. This texter says great value for both sides. Al says, why didn't he sign for a year and be a UFA for big money and term, then sign for big money and term? Well, Al, I think we answered the question there.
Jets wouldn't do a year. They would let the arbitrator do it because the arbitrator would have come in the middle at 4 or something.
Well, if you are just going to play for us for one more year, then let's get that number as low as possible, right? That's the way that I see that, Al. This texter says, Victor says, Samberg, good for him. A 3-4 defenseman at best. Tough to play games with a player when you go on an open market. I don't think he's a 3 or 4 defenseman at best. I think we're seeing a guy really start to develop himself into something.
I'm really sorry. I don't want to like disparage you or anything. He's not a 3-4 defenseman.
Yeah.
He's if Josh Morrissey wasn't here, Josh Morrissey would be on the right side and Dylan Samberg would be right there on the top pairing with him on the left.
There's only 5 guys that have the skill set of Josh Morrissey.
The only reason he's not
NHL
a top
right
pairing
now.
defenseman going forward is because of Josh Morrissey.
That's right.
That's the only reason. And having said that, that's what makes the Jets really good.
And there's only 5-6 players in the National Hockey League that have the skill set of Josh Morrissey. Just look where he's landed in voting on the Norris the last number of years.
You are a really good team when you have first pairing guys not playing on your first pairing. You are a really good team when you have top line guys like Nick Ehlers not playing on your top line. That's what makes you a good team.
Let's squeeze in one more text message, and then we'll get to the other ones when we come back. And hey, by the way, Jim Slater is going to be joining us right after 12:30. Looking forward to
the S of the GST.
That's right. I want to ask him about that. I want to ask him about GST.
I think he loves it.
I went back and watched some highlights, Jim. This is like 15. This started to be a long time ago, which is pretty sad.
Yeah. Well, I remember those days and it makes me feel old.
All right, let's close with this text message. This says, this is a great deal. Lock up at 3 years. Time will tell. After the 3 years, you can look at his injuries and go from there. You're not stuck with an injury possible for an additional 3 years, then try to offload that. Everybody loves to talk about injuries and all that, and you can't plan your team like that.
His first long-term injury was a freak collision at practice with a teammate.
Yeah.
The second one is he's doing his job of blocking a shot twice. He broke his foot and got up and blocked another shot. I'll take those injuries all day.
We'll be right back on the other side.
At noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Welcome back. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15 only at BP. The number one caller will be awarded a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza on Friday. Jim Slater again will be joining us right after 12:30. So looking forward to catching up with him.
Yesterday, Tim Stapleton talked about how often he went to Boston Pizza.
Yeah, we'll find out.
I think Slater used to go to Subway all the time.
The big Subway guy, eh?
Big Subway guy.
Love Subway.
It's just funny how you remember these things.
So you said earlier in the show that Dylan Samberg was the Shooter McGavin
of the Jets.
So Jim Slater was the Happy Gilmore.
Maybe.
Love Subway.
Let's do that. Yes, exactly. I like that. And the Shooter McGavin, I just watched Happy Gilmore 2 last night, and I'm like, kind of reminds you of Dylan Samberg. In 60 years, Dylan Samberg might look like Shooter McGavin. Let's
squeeze some more text messages before we get to Jim Slater when we come back after the news. This texter says, hi, guys, this is crazy. $6 million a season for Samberg? I thought you meant early in the week he was asking $3 million a year. The Jets were offering $2.5 million a season. Wow, I love Samberg, but wow, good for him. Money is getting ridiculous. Yeah, if you think that's getting ridiculous, buckle up, buddy. I appreciate the text message, though.
This
is where the revenue is. The players deserve their share of the revenue. That's just the reality of it.
I don't think it's ridiculous. I think what's ridiculous is because he's got 20 points, right? But Dylan Samberg, out of them points, as a defenseman, does everything extremely well.
And real quick, Nick from New York says, hot take, Dylan Samberg is on the U.S. Olympic team in 2026.
Who? Samberg?
Yeah.
I believe he might be. Yeah. You know what? That's a great take.
Jim Slater will be with us when we come back.
Taves, he turned it over. Oduya's wrister tip, they score! Johnny Oduya held in a clearing attempt. A redirect by Slater out in front of the goal, and Winnipeg has the lead.
That was a goal Jim Slater scored back in October 13th, 2011. The second ever game of Jets 2.0. It was off a turnover from Jonathan Taves.
It's from the pressure of the forecheck that Slater was known for. Taves right now is happy our next guest is retired. Because now that he is a Jet, he doesn't want to face that kind of pressure.
Jim Slater, former Winnipeg Jet, on the program right now. Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for the kind words. It's always great to come back and hear some of those highlights. So I appreciate you guys.
You remember that goal?
I do. I actually do. It was a tip in front, and I think I had two in the first period, kind of like the same style of goal. So it was nice to rehash that a little bit.
After all these years, Jim, does it become a memory where you're like, then I told Taves to suck it and be better, and I just went to the bench or eat that or something like that? No.
I'm sure I said something. I don't know if it was that, but I'm sure I said something. I was probably just either a little bit shocked or a little bit surprised I actually scored, so maybe I didn't say anything.
Yeah, we were just actually sitting here, and I was rewatching some highlights from back in 2011, 2012, and it's 15 years, man. Like, it's, the TVs weren't as HD as they are now. Like, when you look back, what do you take away from the experience of being a Winnipeg Jet?
Yeah, coming from Atlanta, obviously, and you want to talk about, not high definition TVs. My parents love, VCR games from when I was playing in Atlanta, and you go back and watch them every once in a while. It is so fuzzy, you can't even see where I don't know how we even watched hockey there.
Yeah.
And then, coming from Atlanta to Winnipeg was obviously a huge boost. I loved Atlanta. It was my first NHL team. That's where I thought the NHL was. And then you get to Winnipeg in a Canadian city, getting the team back, and you kind of, as soon as you touch ground there at the airport and you're coming in, that's when you realize, like, this is the NHL, and right from the get-go, True North Sports Entertainment, the ownership there treated us like NHL hockey players. The city treated us like, just their own, really, just like their kids. And it was an unbelievable experience. So glad I was able to be a part of something like that in my NHL career. And you become a lifelong fan from it, just not only the team but also the city, because of how they respected us in the town.
You have that unique perspective, Jim. I know everybody came from Atlanta and has a different kind of, like, that culture shock of what you just described to a hockey market from Atlanta, but you have that unique perspective. You were in Atlanta for 6 seasons, so you kind of would have gotten used to, being a Thrasher and being in that environment and then coming to Winnipeg. And I thought in your 4 years here, you kind of, even in year 3 and 4, it was never lost on you on the comparison, and not bashing Atlanta at all, but just the difference in the hockey markets. You really embraced it.
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, coming into the NHL and, being drafted by Atlanta, and you come in for your first training camp, and you think that's what the NHL is, right? And, we'd have a couple people here at practice, 1 or 2 media guys in the locker room, and we had some good players there. We had, Marian Hossa, we had Bobby Holik, Scott Mellenby, some really good veterans, with some really good young guys, and, there just wasn't a ton of media coverage. It was a big city, it's a huge city, and with lots of sports teams and lots of things to do. So, you can walk around town, walk around the city and never get noticed at all. And then you come into Winnipeg, like I said, it's, getting the team back after so long, and, being really the only ticket in town, and, much smaller town than Atlanta, was a huge change. And honestly, like, I always feel like I played better with the boost, like you guys talk about the crowds and, this and that, the next day you're going to be in the paper, whether good, bad, or the ugly. And it put pressure on you, but I always enjoyed it. I felt like it was a big part of my responsibility to give back to the community in a lot of ways. I always liked doing that. And I really feel like I could use that platform, in Winnipeg and being a Jet to really boost, the just being a part of the community. And that was always a huge part of, not only myself as a hockey player, but myself as a person.
The GST line was pretty famous in that first year. With Chris Thorburn and Tanner Glass. What did you think when you first heard that GST chant at what was Canada Life Center now, but it was MTS Center at the time? Especially
Jim sorry to interrupt, but especially being an American, like, would you even have known what GST was before you heard that chant?
Yeah, we got it every paycheck, so we knew it. We knew it. We knew it. What I still remember what it. Funny enough, like Tanner Glass and myself and Chris Thorburn, we're still pretty close. We're both all 3 of us are in player development with different teams, but we stay in contact, and we've done a couple different podcasts, a couple different talks about that, just the whole GST thing, and we always kind of tell the story where it first happened, and we were cycling the puck, or we were getting cycled on in our defensive zone or something. We finally chipped one out, and the fans just started, chanting GST, and, we come back to the bench, and everyone's kind of looking at us like, what's going on here, right? And I remember Ron Haynes, he just kind of looked down and goes, what, blank is this, And then you didn't really know what was going on, and then kind of after the game, the things start coming out, like obviously taxing the other team, this and that, and it was cool. I mean, so when we got rolling a little bit here and there, every once in a while in the games, you'd hear the chants, and it was cool. And then they made some T-shirts for us. I think they only made like 250. I think they only sold 50, but we got a few of we got a few of those still. I still got a few of those in my memorabilia bucket, and it was a cool experience. I mean, after that season, I became a UFA, and I remember just kind of telling my agent, like, I wanted to be there, and just kind of get it done. And I wish we could all stay together. I still give Glasser a hard time because he's the guy that kind of left there, and I think we really would have had something special going for the next couple of years at least, because I thought we were a really, really effective line. So it's too bad that, Tanner, I think, went to Pittsburgh at the time, but it's too bad that he kind of left because, Thorbs and I were with each other for a long time, and Glasser really fit in well with us on that left side. And like I said, I feel like, Claude Noel, the coach there, really gave us a chance, and I think that's with any NHL player now. We all know we can play in the league, and you just got to have a coach that kind of believes in you and respects the role that you play. And Claude really did a great job with us, putting us up against pretty much any line, and we felt like we could handle it.
Who was the most underrated teammate that you played with during your time with Winnipeg?
So yeah, I'm one guy that I thought was just a great player and great teammate, both on the ice and off the ice. Would do anything. Had way better skill than people thought was Adam Party, to be honest with you. I just always thought he was a big, strong D-man that, could have an offensive ability, but, just one of those great teammates all around. So I always thought he was really underrated. And, another guy for me was Tim Stapleton. Never really got a huge chance, wherever he played, but whenever he came in, he was effective. And, there's guys you play with, but those are the two guys that really kind of stick out to me as kind of, not the most thought off, but they were a big part of our team.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up Stapleton, because we actually had Tim on the show yesterday, because we're doing a little bit of a rehash, going back to some other Jets, and I said, I told him that we had you on the show today, and he goes, and I said, well, what's one thing? If I could bring up one thing or ask him, what would it be? And Tim said, how are your suits doing? And he said you'd understand.
Yeah. Tim and I had some fun there in Winnipeg. We call him the Mr. Winnipeg, and is the Palomino Club still around there?
Yeah.
Yeah. For generations now, Jim.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, Tim was a frequent visitor there at the Palomino Club, and I was kind of right with him. So we used to live together in the same condo complex. But yeah, going back to the suits, I mean so the suit thing really, that starts my first year in the NHL, and I came right out of college and made the team out of camp, and had one suit that my grandpa probably bought me in college, and the older guys obviously I was the only rookie on the team at the time. We had an older team in Atlanta, and I just heard it from all angles. So I was finally going to splurge on some suits, and one of the guys that kind of took me under his wing his name was Brad Larson, and he's been a coach in the NHL here for a while now, but he took me under his wing, and he's like, yeah, everybody has a suit guy. You're going to come over to my house. I got my suit guy flying in from Colorado. We're going to get you some suits. So brings me over to his house. And the guy lays out all these different patterns, different silks, this, that, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So we're going through, and I'm like, this one here. It's like, well, those are $3,000. I was like, I'm not going to spend $3,000 on a suit. Like $1,500 most. So the guy shows me $1,500 most. And started looking at them. So I pick out two suits, and I think I did a really good job. And he starts asking, he's like, do you want pleats in the front? And I remember my first my answer was, well, is it free? And he's like, yeah, you can get them, like, no extra cost. I was like, all right, throw them on. And then he's like, do you want cuffs on? And I was like, same thing. Is it free? He's like, yeah, you can get them on, like, no extra charge. Like, all right, put them on. Like, I had no clue what they were. And so I remember I get the suits, probably, 3 weeks later, and I'm getting ready to go to a game. I put it on. I'm walking in the rink, and I guess for all the listeners out there, it's a big fashion no to have pleats and cuffs on your suit pants at the same time. So I walk in, and I think guys are just going to be high fiving me and just looks awesome, this and that. And I walk in with the pleats and cuffs, and just got scorched, just got torched there. And I never wore them again. Never wore those suits ever again. Right. And but that just kind of follows you around, right? So then goes on the next team, then on the next team, and the next team, and the next team. And I remember getting a couple suits there in Winnipeg from F Apparel that were really nice. But yeah, once something gets on you, it sticks on you for quite a while. So the suit thing was definitely on me.
Not the worst thing you could be known for, Jim, but I do.
Right, yeah.
I remember being in the room daily back then. It was like a lot of the suits ironing came up a lot. It was like tell Slater to iron his suits too, or something like that. I don't know. Once in a while, but the other thing I wanted you talked about how close you are with Glass and Thorburn, and we're hoping to get them on too because it's the 15th anniversary. We're having a lot of fun talking to you former Jets. But like when you talked about skilled players, Stapleton and stuff like that, it's so true. But Thorburn, like I nicknamed him Moneymakers, and everybody kind of thought it was because he would drop the gloves. But was he not one of the most deadliest guys in the shootout at practice?
Oh, geez. I don't know about deadly.
When I say deadly, I'm like he would often go to the second or third round, and then he would often say, like at us in the media, he's like, we go to a shootout, and I'm looking at Noel, and I'm like, when it gets to the sixth round, I'm like, what are you wasting time for? Tap me.
Yeah, well, I thought, didn't he have a really nice goal against Ryan Miller too, like coming down the right side?
Yeah, I think so.
It was the toe drag, the famous toe drag.
But I think the thing with Thorbs was like, and it's kind of cliche and an old adage, but if he didn't know what he was doing, the goalie didn't know what he was doing, and I don't think he knew what he was doing most of the time, so the goalie didn't know what he was doing most of the time, so it just kind of maybe looked pretty, but I think we always called it chopping the puck up, so it may have went in, but I don't know if it looked as pretty as he told or you guys were watching.
He had the best quote about that. I'm always looking at Noel waiting, and Adam Lowry outdid it a couple of years ago. They asked Lowry, what do you do in overtime? How do you prepare on the bench? And he goes, I prepare to be the 14th round shooter. That's what I do when it comes to overtime. But great quotes on them. We do want to wrap it up with, you mentioned hockey development. Tell the listeners what you're up to now and still in the game.
Yeah, so really fortunate. After my time in Winnipeg, I went over, played 4 years in Switzerland, which was absolutely incredible experience. Played in Geneva and Freiburg. Got to be a member of the 2018 Olympic team in South Korea, and then we were having our second child, and kind of knew that I could still play. Still wanted to play overseas, but my wife was over here, and so I took the last year of my contract over there just to kind of throw my resume out and talk to the Jets a little bit, but end up hooking on with the Washington Capitals in a player development role, and been there for 6 years now, and it's been incredible. Work with all of our draft picks and prospects, just trying to maximize them as players and people on the ice and off the ice, and it's been fun working with those young kids and trying to pass along my experiences of my playing days, and got the our American League teams in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the Hershey Bears, which is a awesome place to go, an awesome organization. We won 2 Calder Cups over the last 2 years, and it's just been an awesome experience. So yeah, just working closely with our prospects and draft picks, and trying to help the Washington Capitals become Stanley Cup champions one day.
Well, they had a pretty good team last year. Jim Slater, a former Winnipeg Jet, on the show now, current player development staff member with the Washington Capitals. Jim, thanks so much for your time and awesome stuff, and take care, and maybe we'll do this again.
Awesome, guys. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you too, Jim. Great having you. Great stuff there.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, 204-780-6868.
We are working on Chris Thorburn.
Yeah.
We'd love to get Tanner Glass on.
Yeah. So we're trying to. Well, we got some irons in the fire, everybody. Yeah. We got some irons in the fire.
You're working.
We're working it. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner next segment as we're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza.
You know what I love about this is it's great hearing from the guys again. I know we got a break. Yeah. But like when they say a guy like Stapleton or like somebody who is way more like Adam Party, like that's how tough it is in this league, right? There are guys who have legit skill and stuff and just like Stapleton telling the story yesterday, he had 27 points in 63 games. They offered him a deal, but the work stoppage, he was in the K and his team wouldn't let him go. Like there are a ton of guys that could do a lot more, but there's just not a lot of opportunity at this level.
We'll be right back.
On 680 CJOB.
Miss your chance. Get your thoughts on the show today. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15. Only at BP. The number one caller will be awarded a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza on Friday. The winning VIP text from our good friends at Wash Method, 690 St. Anne's Road. In regards to Samberg making 5 3/4, and some people were saying, can't believe how much high NHL salaries are getting. This texter says these people that complain about player wages, you correctly identified that it's a share of revenue, but I'll guarantee you none of these people that are complaining would put their body through the things that these guys do all winter long.
I would if I could get that kind of money.
Yeah.
I mean, we always say this, right? Like if you're an elite athlete and that's your living, it's amazing what you'll do to stay keeping that. And
yeah, no, they're well compensated, but it's tough. I mean, it's a lifetime. I mean, it's a lifetime going through it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, you start when you're 6.
And some of them, the day they retire, never work out again. And some of them,
I can think of a few.
And some of them are Rod the Bot. Like they just don't stop working out and will their whole life.
This texter says, in regards to our conversation with Jim Slater, says, great interview, guys. Love how you're bringing back some of our Jets favorites. Bring on Thorburn and Glass. Mike in Manitoba says that was a great interview. And Darren says, still loving my Jim Slater jersey. Only ever seen one other at a game. We high-fived and said, hell yeah. That one from Darren.
2 quick things. I love the idea that it was Hainsey who said, what is this? The third line getting a chant. And
now he's the assistant director at the NHLPA.
The other thing with the 3-year deal means Morrissey, DeMello, and Samberg will all hit UFA at the same time. This is your window, the next 3 years.
Jim Toth will take you all the way to 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Ford, Jeffrey Bruce, and the show. I'll be back same time tomorrow. See ya.